Hi everyone. I wanted to go over scripture with you so that we can make heads or tails of the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures, which is the Jehovah's Witnesses Bible. And we're going to do that by creating a little diagram here. And we're going by John 1 through 3, but we're not going to go directly to John 1:1. We're going to go to John 1:3. All things that came into existence through him. So these are these two. We're going to do two boxes here. One is going to be, we're going to call this everything that exists. The first box, we're going to put things that never came into being, and things that came into being. If I had to ask you, based on the scripture, where you would put God, you would read the scripture. Let's just say that you know nothing at all about the Bible and you're reading this for the first time, and you have to decide, where does God go? In the beginning was the Word, and we know that the Word is Jesus, and let's just call that a given by the teacher. The teacher tells you that the Word is Jesus. Spiritual math. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In the Jehovah's Witness Bible, they put a God. This was in the beginning with God. All things came into existence through him. And apart from him, not even one thing came into existence. Well, the typical scripture is going to read fairly the same in verse 3. All things came into existence through him. So where would you put God in these two boxes? Remember, we're talking about everything that exists. You would say God goes into all things that never came into being, if you know that God did not have a beginning and an end. So now we have to think to ourselves, where does Jesus go? Does he go here? Or does he go here? Remember, all these things were created through Jesus. Created through Jesus. Well, you can only have two categories. You can only pick one or the other. Things that never came into being, or things that came into being. If all of these things were created through Jesus, where would Jesus go? If we put Jesus here, he would have had to create himself. You can only have two categories: things that never came into being and things that came into being. But we already know all things, everything that exists, were created through Jesus. If you separate the two and you look at things that never came into being, and God is the only thing that exists that never came into being. If everything was created through Jesus, and we put Jesus in this box, Jesus created himself. Some might take it a step further and say, but it says, apart from him, which must mean aside from him or except him. If you were to change this to accept him, read the scripture and see how it sounds. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was a God. This one was in the beginning with God. All things came into existence through him. And we know that him is Jesus. And except him, not even one thing came into existence. That doesn't make sense. That makes the entire scripture not even comprehensible. It just doesn't make any sense. So, we can't use that as a way out. And we have to pick one or the other. Because everything that exists in the world has to go into one box or another. Remember, we're talking about all things. Where will you put Jesus? If Jesus was a God, then again, he would have still had to come into being somewhere. That is where a God that was created would be assumed to go. But how could that be if all things were created through him? Do you see where I'm going with this? Came into being. All things were created through Jesus. If we change this to was God, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We know that the Word is Jesus. Now it works. And here are all other things in this world that were created. Now, all things were created through Jesus, and the scripture now makes sense. Think about it.